the Lesson 8 video. In this video, we're going to learn about working with color, image, and multimedia on your web pages. So we're going to basically go through and talk about choosing colors for your website, using CSS to set background text, border colors, what graphics package you might want to use, how to prepare to use photographs online. Let me go fix this. How to prepare banners and buttons, how to reduce the number of colors in an image, how to create transparent images, how to prepare images for tile backgrounds, creating animated web graphics, place an image on a web page, how to describe images with text, specify image height and width, align images, how to use background images. We won't be covering image maps, but we will be covering linking or embedding multimedia files and HTML audio and video files. So best practices for choosing color. You want to make sure you use a natural palette of colors. You want to avoid ultra bright colors that can cause eye strain. You want to use accessible color combinations, so you want to be sensitive to people who are colorblind. So basically green and red can be a tough color combination. You can use colors with good contrast, especially for blocks of text. For example, black text on a white background is easy to read. You can use a small color palette, so you can focus on 3 or 4 main colors or 1 or 2 complementary colors at most. So you don't want a wide color palette. And you want to consider your demographics, so choose a middle ground when choosing your colors. So some common color schemes, there's an analogous color scheme where colors that are adjacent to each other on the color wheel. There's complementary. That means the colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel. Monochromatic, using colors that have a primary hue. And triadic is using colors that are equally spaced around the color wheel. So the next thing we're going to take a look at is understanding the different web colors. The W3C standards has 16 colors, which are all listed here. I'm not going to repeat those, but you can see those here on the slide. And the standard browser support 140 descriptive names. As you can see, some of them are very creative, like cornflower blue being one of them, white smoke, honeydew. So a lot of different names that are recognized by the standard browsers. Okay, so one way we're going to start looking at is we're going to look at using hexadecimal values for color. So the way the hexadecimal color values work is it uses 3 different color combinations to get a certain color. So the 3 different colors that you can mix are red, green, and blue. So in your hexadecimal color, you can use the hexadecimal numbers to represent red, green, and blue, and you usually start that with a number sign. So if you look over here, I'm going to look at this. Let's look at these colors here. Here you have a whole bunch of different colors. Here you have red, green, and blue. The way they are outlined here, let me go over here. So if you go to colors, I start having these colors out here. Oh, here we go. So, we used, I created different classes to be the different red, green, and blue hex colors. So, gonna have to also look here in my styles, that's CSS. And we're going to go all the way down to red hex. So the red hex color, this is the hexadecimal color combination. So hexadecimal numbers, if you're not familiar with them, they start at 0, and they're, instead of like a decimal color which goes from 0 to 10, hexadecimal goes from 0 to 16. So that means once you hit the number 10 in hexadecimal is the letter A. And then 11 is B, etc., until you get to F. And that gives you your hexadecimal color combination. So here, if you want to say an extremely all red color, you would fill the red portion of the color with double F, which is the highest concentration of red you can get there. And you can see with green, everything else is 0 except for the green portion of the color, which is, again, 2 Fs. And then finally you have the, and then finally you have the blue hex down here, which is the blue portion of the color is filled with F. And again, each portion actually fills a number between 0 and 255. So the max is, this double F represents the number 255. So that's how that works, and that's how we got the numbers here. This is the red hex, the green hex, and the blue hex colors. Okay, as you can see here, you can change the brightness. So the double F is full brightness in the color. That's why everything had double F in our example. If you wanted an 80% brightness, you would just put 2 C's there. 60% is 2 6's, and then all the way down to 20% is 2 3's. So if we go back and look at our hex colors, we did blue. Yeah, I didn't do a light. I did do a light version with this background color down here. I did a light green, and I'll show you that when we cover this one. Oh well, actually I can go back here and show you that color. I think I did images here. Back to, hold on. Let me look at my colors here. Oh, background and border colors, which we did here. So that's actually here, the background border colors. This is that light green. You notice this is a more intense green, and then it's actually a lighter palette of green is over here. Okay, next we're going to look at a different way of representing color. So one way that you can represent color is through the hexadecimal. The other way is through using RGB and RGBA values for the colors. And that's where we hit upon here, where we did the red, green, and blue RGB. So if you look at the red, green, blue, you see we also have red, green, and blue again, but now we're using the actual decimal values to indicate the color. So 255 red, 255 green, and 255 blue. It's exactly the same as the double F for hexadecimal that you saw before. All right, and then you can see the colors over here for the RGB colors. The other thing you can do is there's actually a fourth element that you can give. It's called RGBA, and the A part is the transparency of the color. So you can make your color actually look transparent, which is which is nice, because now when you go over here, it's almost like you can see through it somehow, right? But behind it is white, so it just looks like a lighter shade of red. Okay, so, and then you could see for 0 means that you'll have nothing for that color component. So the way you outline it is here you would use decimal, the numbers between 0 and 1. So 0.5 is about halfway, so it's like half transparency. Okay, here's some examples of that RGB, but I also showed you the other example that we saw there. All right, so you can also use CSS to set the background text and border colors. So here you have, we're giving the background color, and we're also doing a different border color. So if you look over here, let's see, did we use, yeah, we did a background and border, and then this, and then we did a text color there. And the text color is the color red. Okay, next. Oh, and then this is just a quick discussion on graphics software. If you need to create images for your website, these are some of the popular software out there that you can use. Adobe Photoshop is a very popular software. GIMP is a nice open source software. It's free. And a lot of people use it because it's free. You don't have to buy anything. It's pretty powerful, but some people think it's more difficult to learn. But there's a lot of tutorials out there that show you how to learn. And then there's CorelDRAW, Acorn. Those are just some of the software packages that allow you to create your own graphics. The other thing you want to look at is image resolution and graphic types. Images are usually classified in dots per inches. For example, 72 dpi, which means dot per inches. The higher the dot per inches, the higher the resolution. And there's 4 different graphic types that you may include in your website. There's photos of people, products, and places, graphical banners and logos, buttons or icons, or background textures for container elements. So there's a lot of reasons to create your own graphics, and those are the 4 top ones. When you're preparing photographic images, you may want to crop the image, resize it, tweak the image colors. A good thing to do is also control your JPEG compression, because reducing the size but still retaining the quality is important, because that means your page is going to download faster if you reduce the size of your file using compression. So it's another thing that you have to be aware of. Creating banners and buttons, that's another common use. You could optimize images by reducing or removing colors that aren't needed. So placing images on the web. So let's look at the images here. You can see we have the photo of this cat, and we have it for different sizes. So if I go here to my images.html file here, and we'll look at some of the image. So in order to put an image on your page, you want to use the image element. It's abbreviated IMG, and you give it a source. You can give it an alternate or a title. And the nice thing about that is if you give it that, when you hover over it, you see cute cat appears when you hover over it with the mouse. So you have your source of your JPEG. So this JPEG is actually right in the same folder as my HTML file. So that's why I could pull it up. So because it's a relative link, it's relative to the images.html. Yeah, so let's go on to the next one. Oh, the other thing you could do is you can change the size by giving it a width and a height. So what I've done here is, if you notice, the second one I added a class called large image. And in order to make that large image, if you look here, what I did is I said, hey, why don't you make the width 300 pixels? So it made it a larger image. And then the auto means, the nice thing with the auto for height is it'll automatically adjust based on the proportions of the image. So you don't have to give the exact number of pixels for your height. It'll just automatically adjust properly for it. That's how you have this large image here. Now the next thing we want to do is control floating the image around text. And that's pretty much what we're talking about in this slide. There's different styles you can give it. There's a float left and a float right. So when you float your image to the left, what happens is it will float it to the left of any text that follows it. If you float it to the right, it will float the image all the way to the right of the container that then bounds it, which is this div over here. And you can see that in the images.html. We went ahead with the left image. This floats it left. And that left image, if you look over here, all we did was give it a rule of float left. And then we do a float right. Now, the problem with these images is once you do a float, everything sticks after that. So to kind of reset it, you have to clear all the floats from it. And the way you do that is I basically put this clear float on all the divs in here. So if you look at the divs that surround the images, they all have clear float on it. So it kind of resets the image. And that's what we did here. So we did it for the left and the right floating image. There's also, and then you can see float left, float right there. All right, vertical alignment. So as you can see, you can align it vertically. So now the image is, because it's contained in this div, the image is in the middle, so you have equal spacing above and below it. This one's baseline, so that moves the image all the way, and so that the bottom of the image is all the way at the bottom of the container, which is this div over here. Now, how did we do that? Again, I created the vertical line. This one is doing the middle. Vertical line baseline does a baseline. And that's pretty much what we did here with the vertical line and the vertical baseline. Here I did vertical line middle, so that aligned the image to the middle of the div, and this one aligned it to the bottom. Now the one other thing that I had to include here is I had to put this helper class in a span in order for this to properly work. Without this, this didn't work. So what these helpers do is they set, one thing they do is they set the div to inline block, give it a maximum height, and also set it to middle, which is similar to what we had down here. And same thing for the baseline. So it's really a combination of the helper and the vertical alignment that helps to align the images properly. Okay, and then this slide talks about that a little bit more. And the last thing we're going to look is turning the images to a link. So that's kind of what we did in this last one here. So if you surround an image with an anchor tag, that image becomes a link. And then you could click on the image. So if you look at here, images to link, if I click on this image, it opens up the Google website and a new tab. And that's kind of what I did down here. Is I opened it up and it's going to google.com. Other thing you might want to do is you might want to put a background image on your website. So here, if we go all the way up here and click on background image, it basically throws this image in the background. So if I go here, background image, and scroll down here to see what I did, basically what I did is I added this background image class to this page, background image page. So if I look at the CSS for background image, I just give it the JPEG, which again is just a file in my folder here that says, hey, make the background image for this entire web page be the background.jpg file that's here. All right, the last thing we're going to look at is embedding multimedia files. So there's a number of different ways to do that. First, let's go over here. Okay, this is the audio. We'll talk about that later. So the first thing you could do is embed a multimedia file. So if you just put it in an anchor tag, like we do here, like the sample movie, and this has a sample movie inserted. So if I clicked on that, all it's going to do by default is it's going to go ahead and try to download it, which is what it's doing right now. See my browser just try to download the movie. The next thing is the video. If you want to display a video, there's actually a video tag, and you can tell it with this attribute. You can say, hey, I want controls on there so I can control the movie. And that's what puts these controls, like the sound, full screen it. I could also download, there's a bunch of different things I could do out of the box. And again, this is a very simple video. All it does is show a spinning world here. But it's a nice little video there. So I'll go ahead and stop that. And that's how you can use the video tag. There's also an audio tag, and I'll show you here. That's that weird noise that you saw. So if you hear that noise, it's kind of a little annoying, so I'm going to stop it. But you can basically embed any MP3 file, as you can see here. So in these files, the sample movie and the sample MP3 are all in here. So here's a sample movie, here's a sample MP3. And again, you use that controls. And you could also tell it to autoplay so that it plays right away. And then you can tell it to play in a loop, and then it'll just keep playing until it totally annoys you. So then the last type of video is the YouTube link. So if you want to embed a YouTube video in your own website, you have to use an iframe to do that. And then you give it the width and height of the frame where you're showing your YouTube video. And then you give it the source. So this last bit is the YouTube URL. So you have to basically tell it www.youtube.com/embed, and that automatically embeds the YouTube video like you see down here. And the nice thing about embedding it is now when they click on it, they don't go outside of your site. They stay in your site, and then you just watch it. Right, so here we go. This is one of my own videos, so I'm going to stop it there. But you see you get all these controls, and they're totally embedded. You can full screen it if you want. Gives you a lot of options. And again, here's just the further discussion of what we discussed what I just showed you. You can do video, you can do audio. I didn't discuss YouTube, but as you can see, you can also embed YouTube videos and put them on your website. Okay, so that's the end of the lesson 8 video, and we will talk again later.